Good morning and welcome to this beautiful morning. Today we have a day off, or half a day, and I'm going to the hairdresser, but that's not why I'm talking to you. Today we're going to do a review of the Kawasaki Z900RS 2022-2023, and yeah, let's find out why I bought this bike. So join me on a nice ride and we'll talk about certain things that I've always talked about: comfort, engine, overall looks, brakes, suspension, and that kind of stuff. And I will try to give you my honest opinion about this bike. This bike is my personal bike right now. And I say right now because yeah, it can change really fast. But yeah, I really like this bike. Otherwise I wouldn't buy it. But yeah, I'm going to try to do an honest review as possible. But bear in mind, I've been an owner for 3 times of this bike, and I hope that after this, yeah, contemplation of a couple of minutes, I will not change my mind and decide to sell this bike again. So let's dive in. First thing that you notice when you're getting on this bike is that it feels really classic. So the dual clocks and the LCD in the middle really is a really good combination of modern stuff and also old school classic stuff. And then the second thing you notice is the sound. So when you're on this bike, the sound is just amazing. If you like 4-cylinder sounds, of course. I for myself are more 2-cylinder kind of guy, but I really appreciate my 4-cylinders also. So that's maybe the reasons why I keep getting back to this bike. So let's first talk about the engine of this bike. It's really good. So let me just put on my jacket. Well, not my jacket, my backpack, because it's really heavy because I have all my camera equipment with me. But yeah, the engine, so it's a 948cc 4-cylinder engine, which is really nice because nowadays you don't get a lot of 4-cylinder engines, and that's why it's really I think to me really special, because back in the day, let's say 15 or 20 years ago, most top bikes were 4-cylinder bikes, most naked bikes were 4-cylinder bikes. So you had 4 cylinders from Suzuki, Kawasaki, Yamaha, and only the Europeans made 2 cylinders, or of course they're not the only one that made them. The Japanese also made them, but they were not as popular, and they were not on the top of the food chain, for example, like a BMW GS or something with a Boxer 2-cylinder. But 4-cylinders are nowadays really special, because if you look at all the other brands, Yamaha, they do have the MT-10, and I do think that's a 4-cylinder, but that's top, that's really expensive. So if you go to the competition of this bike, the XSR 900 or maybe the MT-09, yeah, those are 3-cylinder bikes, so that's really different. Triumph of course has 3-cylinder bikes. Suzuki mainly do 2-cylinder bikes not right now, so also a cross-plane engine, so the same as the MT-07 engine, but of course they have the Hayabusa, but it's a whole different level. And the Katana, I'm not sure if it's made anymore. Yeah, in other competitions most do 2-cylinders, so Suzuki, Moto Guzzi, and Triumph, of course, for the retro classics, the Triumph Speed Twin, for example. So yeah, 2 cylinders are most of the naked bikes, KTM for example, and that makes this bike really special, I think. So if you want a really good, powerful 4-cylinder, then this is almost the only way to go, especially if you go for the normal Z900. So speaking about power, this bike has around 111 brake horsepower. I'm not sure of the torque, but it's quite a lot. I will put it down in the video, of course. This bike pulls really hard, almost every RPM range. So normally 4 cylinders are really high in RPM, and they do give the power when you're high in the RPM range. But this bike gives it from 2,500 RPM. You can already get it some power out of it, so that's really nice. So it's based on the normal Z900 engine, and that bike has around 126 brake horsepower, but that bike has a little bit less torque, especially down low. So that's the difference. So in terms of the engine, I really like it. You do have one thing that I don't like about it, and that's maybe the reason why I've sold it all the time. It's not that it lacks character. I think it has a really good sound. It's throaty. There's no need to put another exhaust on it, but it is really on-off. So that's all because of the Euro emissions. So you could change that with a tune or something like that. But if you get it on the throttle and then push it up, you get launched forward. So you need to be really delicate. I'm used to having bonky 2 cylinders, like Aprilia 2 cylinders, the big 1200 or 1000 cc 2 cylinders. The Ducati is also pretty substantial. So I'm used to a little bit of on-off, but this is extreme. So that's one of the things that I would really change. But that is an investment for about 300 euros, and then you're done. So I will do that once my warranty wears off, I think. For now, oh, my blinkers were on all the time. For now, I'm really happy with the engine. It doesn't have a quick shifter, so you could use it. I think it makes the bike even better, but yeah, it's just a peach of an engine. I really like it. I think the engine is one of the biggest selling points of this bike, even with the on-off effect. So talking about comfort, I think this bike is pretty comfortable for about 2 or 3 hours max. I do my daily commute lately on this bike, so that's 1 hour to my destination and 1 hour back. So sometimes a little bit longer when I take a detour, and I do feel my back when I'm how do you say that, when I'm done with riding. So it is comfortable, and it's okay if you're not as big as me. So I'm around 186 meters or 187 meters, and if you have a girlfriend that is a little bit less height, but let's say 160 or 165, it is too small for 2 persons. In terms of seating position, I'm really comfortable because this bike just has a really good upright position. No complaints there, no pressure on the wrists, no pressure anywhere, so I'm really comfortable even with my tall legs. So yeah, it's a really good bike for bigger riders, but not too up. So I will probably change out my rear foot pegs, get them off to have a more clean look, and yeah, I'm not going to ride with too up with this bike. I will get another bike for that, or I'll make quite a good C12 on Sport for that. So in terms of comfort, I'm really happy with this bike. I think I can highly recommend it, but don't expect, maybe it's also because of my weight, because I'm around 88 kilos or 90. Depends on what I ate. But yeah, it's don't expect to get an all-day ride, but with enough brakes, it's perfectly fine, and I really like it. So next up is the brakes and the suspension. So I will combine them together because I really like them both. The brakes are fine. They're not the best brakes I've ever had, but they're really good. They're radial Kawasaki branded brakes and they do the job there. I have absolutely no complaints about them. I'm not saying that it's the best brakes that I've ever used, but yeah, it's really good. Suspension is really good, especially when I'm riding alone. I haven't adjusted the suspension, but it feels like you're riding on a cloud, and it's pretty interesting because riding on clouds is always interesting, but also it's better than my V100, and that has electronic alien suspension and really good suspension, and it's the best suspension ever. But this bike is way more comfortable, even on bumps and roads. I really love it. So yeah, suspension is really good, and the brakes are also fine. So let's find a little stop to do maybe a walk around, or at least get some coffee or something like that. I'll get back to you. So we've talked about the brakes and the suspension, but let's talk about the handling of the bike. So I'm now riding in a small village, but the handling on this bike is just like you would expect of a big naked bike. So it's absolutely really nimble. I think it has a pretty short wheelbase, so it's really flickable, and the big wide handlebars give you a really good control of your bike, which is nice. I have absolutely no complaints about the handling. It's because it's also so smooth. It's really confidence inspiring. It's just good. I have absolutely no complaints about the handling. But there's one complaint I've got. Wait a minute, there's more. So the tires, the Dunlop Sport Max, the standard tires, which it came with from the factory, those are still on. So it has around 4,000 kilometers right now, so they're not finished, but as soon as they're finished I would absolutely replace them. So in the dry, when it's good weather, they're okay, they're grippy, but when it doesn't give you anything extra, or it doesn't let you feel like you can go really fast in the corners with this tire. So I would absolutely recommend to change them. And if you get the feeling when you're on this bike and you're test riding it and you're like, okay, it doesn't feel right and I'm not sure why, it's probably the tires. So don't discount this bike for the tires that it came factory. Most people change them. That's not a problem. You can do that. So let's talk about looks. Yeah, we should talk about looks, but then it's better to do a walk around. So I will try to get a spot. Okay, let's skip the looks. So let's talk about overall value. So this bike goes around here in the Netherlands for around 14,000 euros, which is pretty expensive, especially for a naked bike. I think it's one of the most expensive middle-class naked bikes. But nowadays, if you go to a KTM 890 Duke or 990 Duke, which is completely different, of course, it's even more expensive. It's around 16,000 euros. You do have an SE version of this bike. I almost bought that one, but then I was like, okay, I would probably it's better to save the money for something else. Maybe do my upgrades themselves if I need them. And for now, I'm really happy with the suspension and the brakes of this bike, that I would not need an SE version. But yeah, so yeah, overall value, you get a really good engine for the money. You get pretty good brakes. You do get rubber braided brake lines, but it's almost standard with Japanese bikes. unfortunately, because they don't work with Rambo a lot. Don't get any special things, no cruise control, no quick shifter, but just a really good bike that gives you a really good, nice old school feeling of how to ride a bike, but then with a lot of power. So let's talk about tech. This bike is not filled with tech, so you do have, of course, electric starter, that kind of stuff. You have a digital dash in the middle between the classic style dash at the side. You do have switchable traction control, so you have KRTC 1 and 2, and the one is more intrusive than the other, and you can turn it off. You have ABS, you have trip meter, mileage meter when it's empty, range. Yeah, I think that's about it. So not a lot of tech. You do get full adjustable suspension, but that's not on the techy side. That's more like good to have if you want to have options. So yeah, in terms of tech, it's okay. It's more than enough. It's perfect. I don't want any fancy TFT dash on this bike. I don't want really good. I don't want cruise control. It's just ride by wire. It's not ride by wire even. So it's ride by cable, but it gives you a really authentic feel. And yeah, cruise control. Yeah, I will not personally use this bike for doing long distance trips. So yeah, don't need it. So let's do a little walk around and then do my final conclusions of this bike. And I have to say, I will hopefully own this bike more than 6 months. So hopefully I can do a long term or maybe a year or an owner review, so stay tuned. I'm also going to change a lot of this bike. So if you are interested in that, I'm just going to change it for fun, not because it's needed. But if you're interested in seeing some mods on this bike, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, if you like this video, it would really help the channel. So yeah, stay tuned, please. So, is the camera on? Yes, it's on. So let's do a little walk around and talk about looks. What to talk about? It's a really beautiful bike to look at. It's almost perfect in my opinion. I'm going to change a little small things, but you should watch my other videos for that. So in this case, it has a really good aluminium tank, really nice polished wheels, which I really like. A beautiful engine with the cooling fins, just looks classic but also modern. Really nice exhaust. I really like the line of the exhaust. It's awesome. This color is the candy tone blue, so it's with gold accents and blue accents, and in the sun it just pops. It looks really good. And yeah, looking at it, it's just really nice. Absolutely awesome. So it has a monoshock, so not the piggyback shocks that you are used to with this kind of model. It's of course an homage to the original Z1. It has LED here in Europe, LED on the front or on the rear, and on the front I think I'm going to change the rear someday. It has a really big radiator, bigger than the previous one. A really nice round headlight with bullet shaped dashes. LED, the headlights are pretty good. Big LEDs on the front. I don't like those. I think they should be changed because they're not matching the bike really well. And it has a really pretty nice shaped fender, rear fender, but I would recommend a tail tidy if you're going to change that. But yeah, awesome bike. So let's go to the final conclusion. Okay, Final conclusions. Would I recommend this bike to you and to anyone or to someone? And if I'm honest, I would recommend this bike to almost everyone. So beginner riders, let's see where I need to go. Beginner riders, experienced riders, people that want a retro bike but don't want to give up on modern stuff like good brakes, really a lot of power. I think this is one of the most powerful retro bikes in the market right now, together with the Triumph Speed Twin and the R90. So if you want a retro bike that has power, yeah, you can really do a lot of twisties on it. You can really look at it and enjoy the beauty of the bike, especially in some colorways. It is a bike that is really easily bought on the used market, so there are a lot of bikes that are for sale right now on the used market. So the previous version with a smaller radiator, which is also really good, is a lot cheaper than a new one, so you can really save some money. You have a really good bike. It's a really good platform to also customize. Of course, not so good as a V7 or a Triumph Speed Twin or Street Twin or something like that. But you can do a lot if you look at the websites, and especially Japanese website. It is yeah, they have a lot of options, so you can also yeah, change it up a lot. Yeah, it's a really nice bike. I absolutely like it and also love it, otherwise I wouldn't bought it. Yeah, I could highly recommend it to everyone. I think this one is a keeper, but if you never know with me. But if I will keep it, I will also buy another seat for my girlfriend so that she can also ride it once she has her driver license. It's a really good and easily managed bike, but you can also really rip it around. It's absolutely awesome and really fast. So I would highly recommend to check this bike out. And as I said, if you are not really sure about the tires, you can always change them. So yeah, thanks for watching, and hope you liked it. If you do, please leave a like, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
If you want to see my newest video, tap here. If you want to see my recommended video for you, tap here. And if you want to subscribe, tap here. Thanks for watching. Tap here, or tap here.